Perhaps you are overvaluing what you don't have and undervaluing what you do. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. If you are not willing to be a fool, you can't become a master. In order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. The purpose of life, as far as I can tell, is to find a mode of being that's so meaningful that the fact that life is suffering is no longer relevant. I don't think that you have any insight whatsoever into your capacity for good until you have some well-developed insight into your capacity for evil. When you have something to say, silence is a lie. You're going to pay a price for every bloody thing you do and everything you don't do. You don't get to choose to not pay a price. You get to choose which poison you're going to take. That's it. You can only find out what you actually believe, rather than what you think you believe, by watching how you act. You simply don't know what you believe before that. You are too complex to understand yourself. If you can't understand why someone is doing something, look at the consequences of their actions, whatever they might be, and then infer the motivations from their consequences. If you don't say what you think, then you kill your unborn self. And if you think tough men are dangerous, wait until you see what weak men are capable of. If you fulfill your obligations every day, you don't need to worry about the future. It took untold generations to get you where you are. A little gratitude might be in order. If you're going to insist on bending the world to your way, you better have your reasons. No tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. To suffer terribly and to know yourself as the cause. That is hell. Don't underestimate the power of vision and direction. These are irresistible forces, able to transform what might appear to be unconquerable obstacles into traversable pathways and expanding opportunities. Strengthen the individual. Start with yourself. Take care with yourself. Define who you are. Refine your personality. Choose your destination and articulate your being. So, attend carefully to your posture. Quit drooping and hunching around. Speak your mind. Put your desires forward, as if you had a right to them, at least the same right as others. Walk tall and gaze forthrightly ahead. Dare to be dangerous. Encourage the serotonin to flow plentifully through the neural pathways desperate for its calming influence. Ideologies are substitutes for true knowledge, and ideologues are always dangerous when they come to power, because a simple-minded I know-it-all approach is no match for the complexity of existence. You must determine where you are going in your life, because you cannot get there unless you move in that direction. Random wandering will not move you forward. In the West, we have been withdrawing from our tradition, religion, and even nation-centered cultures, partly to decrease the danger of group conflict. But we are increasingly falling prey to the desperation of meaninglessness, and that is no improvement at all. Sometimes, when people have a low opinion of their own worth, or, perhaps, when they refuse responsibility for their lives, they choose a new acquaintance, of precisely the type who proved troublesome in the past. Such people don't believe that they deserve any better, so they don't go looking for it. Or, perhaps, they don't want the trouble of better. If you have a comprehensive explanation for everything, then it decreases uncertainty and anxiety, and reduces your cognitive load. And if you can use that simplifying algorithm to put yourself on the side of moral virtue, then you're constantly a good person with a minimum of effort. I don't tell people, you're okay the way that you are. That's not the right story. The right story is, you're way less than you could be. Make friends with people who want the best for you. The idea that women were oppressed throughout history is an appalling theory. One of the things I've told men over and over and over and over is if you're being rejected by all the women that you approach, it's not the women. Don't compare yourself with other people, compare yourself with who you were yesterday. It is more difficult to rule yourself than to rule a city. If you're talking to a man who wouldn't fight with you under any circumstances whatsoever, then you're talking to someone for whom you have absolutely no respect. Men and women aren't the same. And they won't be the same. That doesn't mean that they can't be treated fairly. Women deeply want men who are competent and powerful. And I don't mean power in that they can exert tyrannical control over others. That's not power. That's just corruption. One of the things I've told men over and over and over and over is if you're being rejected by all the women that you approach, it's not the women. Assume that the person you're listening to knows something you don't. No one gets away with anything, ever, so take responsibility for your own life. If you don't stand your ground, then all that happens is people push you backwards. It's very hard to find your own words, and you don't actually exist until you have your own words. It is more difficult to rule yourself than to rule a city. Love is the desire to see unnecessary suffering ameliorated. Truth is the handmaiden of love. The truth is something that burns. It burns off dead wood. And people don't like having the dead wood burned off, often because they're 95% dead wood. Life is tragic. You are tiny and flawed and ignorant and weak, and everything else is huge, complex, and overwhelming. Don't be dependent. At all. Ever. Period. It's a small percentage of people who do the 80-hour-a-week high-powered career thing, and they're almost all men. Why? Well, men are driven by socio-economic status more than women. It's in responsibility that most people find the meaning that sustains them through life. It's not in happiness. It's not an impulsive pleasure. If you learn a martial art, you learn to be dangerous, but simultaneously, you learn to control it. You can't have a value structure without a hierarchy. They're the same thing because a value structure means one thing takes precedence over another. Become aware of your own insufficiency. People have been fed this diet of pabulum, rights, and impulsive freedom. There's just an absolute starvation for the other side of the story. We have to rediscover the eternal values and then live them out. You have to listen very carefully and tell the truth if you are going to get a paranoid person to open up to you. There's a personality trait known as agreeableness. Agreeable people are compassionate and polite. And agreeable people get paid less than disagreeable people for the same job. Women are more agreeable than men. Adopt responsibility for your own well-being, try to put your family together, try to serve your community, try to seek for eternal truth. That's the sort of thing that can ground you in your life, enough so that you can withstand the difficulty of life. You have to treat yourself like you matter, because if you don't, then you don't take care of yourself and you become vengeful and cruel, and you take it out on people around you. And you are not a positive force. None of that is good, you suffer more, and so does everyone else around you. Women select men. That makes them nature, because nature is what selects. And you can say, well, it's only symbolic that women are nature. It's like, no, it's not just symbolic. The woman is the gatekeeper to reproductive success. And you can't get more like nature than that. In fact, it's the very definition of nature. All things considered, there's nobody better for children than parents.